Hello, everyone, and welcome to my live stream. I'm Joshua Blair, the founder and CEO of Icebreaker Games, and I'm definitely thrilled to have you guys join us today. So what we're looking at is diving into the development process of our new project that we're currently calling Dream Machine. We're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how we're bringing this game to life, from anything from concept art to coding. But before we get started, I definitely wanted to say thank you for everybody joining. Your support means a lot to us, and we're definitely excited to share this journey with you. Now let's get started. For the most part, this is a project that I've been working on, at least from the game design part. But what we're going to do is we're going to start from the very beginning of game development and work our way all the way through to a finished prototype, at least. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them as we go along. And if there's any issues with my voice or any sounds that are annoying, just feel free to let me know. And let's dive right in. So like I talked about, this is a project I'm calling Dream Machine for now. And just to give you a little bit of background on the actual project. And so I'm thinking, first things first, what I normally do with a lot of these types of projects is I immediately set up basically a GitHub. Something where I can have some type of version control. I know Unity has their version control called Plastic. I have used it before in other projects. It's pretty decent. There's a lot of features that I like about it. But when I'm doing a project solo like this, I don't quite need Plastic's extent. I can just go with GitHub and be just fine. And a lot of times it's just I might have messed something up or installed some kind of package that conflicts with something else, and so I just need something that goes back to a different version. I rarely end up using that feature, but it's nice to have because in the past I've lost days worth of work not having that concept or not having that feature. So it's definitely something that I prefer to do. So that is actually what I'm going to start off doing here. You can see I do have a GitHub folder, and I like to use GitHub Desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that here. And I'm going to create a new repository, and we're going to call it Dream Machine. I'm going to go ahead and do the Gitignore. I'm going to set it up for Unity. A lot of times I still have to add something to that Gitignore file, but the built-in one definitely seems to be decent, at least when you first start out. Now I know there's multiple ways, multiple ways to do this. I'm not going to say my way is the best way by any means. There's a lot of different experts out there that maybe suggest something else. This is just the way that I've done it, that I've gotten used to doing it, and so I just continue to do it that way. Every once in a while I might meet with some other colleagues and see how they do it, and a lot of times it's just preference. It's not something that is necessarily right or wrong. So if you guys do it differently, you can always link that in the chat. Tell me how you guys do it, and maybe give me a reason why you do it that way. And who knows, maybe one of these days I might pick up your concept. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this repository to GitHub. I'm going to keep the code private. It's not something that I'm going to share with the public, at least not as of now. And the goal for this project, maybe I didn't mention this before, but the goal of this project is to eventually have a working prototype, something that we can get some beta testers out there, kind of show the entire process. I'd love to show not only just creating the game, but also eventually showing how we marketed the game, how we got users, subscribers, how we eventually get onto Steam. That would be my goal, and just go there. So I really would love to do a stream where it's just from start to finish. I think that would help out a lot of people. I know there's a lot of potential game developers out there, and this is, I think, a way to really help them and really show them that it's pretty easy. In fact, one of my biggest mottos lately has been that anybody can game development nowadays. There's just so many tools, so many things that you can do nowadays, and I'll show you a lot of them. Or just anybody can just say, hey, I have any idea, and let me create it. So I got the repo ready to go, so I'm going to go ahead and open Unity. Let's see if I can find it here. I just opened the Unity Hub. If you don't have it downloaded, you can go ahead and do that. Obviously, this is going to be a pretty long live stream today, and so if you're just watching the video, it might get a little boring. You can obviously skip ahead, but for those that are actually viewing this, you're just going to have to bear with me. Might be some boring parts. I'll try to keep talking as much as I can, and like I said before, if you have any questions, go ahead and post it in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and do a new project here. We're going to add project. We're going to put it in that GitHub folder that I talked about, and we're going to call it Dream Machine. Oh, it's already there. Sorry. So we're going to select that folder. Sometimes this happens. It helps if you can. Sometimes I'll just create a different folder and then kind of move things over, copy and paste. It's a little bit of a clunky beginning. Sometimes I mess up the order in which you're supposed to do it. I'm just going to call it Dream Machine at the end. Well, it still doesn't like that. Interesting. Let's not put it on. Let's not put it on the desktop then. Or not in that folder, in that GitHub folder. We're just going to put it on the desktop here. Weird. I've never experienced that. Of course, today when I'm live streaming, that's when all the issues will happen. Let's see. I definitely have enough space on my hard drive. I don't think that's the issue here. I'm are using this version. Oh, yeah, man. There we go. For some reason when I clicked on it earlier, it didn't work. But I'm going to go ahead and use the URP. This isn't a game that I'm going to try to have just the greatest graphics, at least starting out. One of the things, working with prototypes is, especially with my company, what we do is we kind of specialize in the prototypes, and we kind of look to find companies that either will purchase the prototype or take it further. Or sometimes we actually have clients come to us and say, hey, create this prototype. And they go and do with it whatever they want with it. Having something that works just really well, has really good FPS, and it may lack at least some of the graphics wise, is just fine, because they're going to go out and they're going to hire artists, and they're going to hire whatever, and they can take this prototype and help get funded. So I tend to stick with URP. And like I said, we're going to call it Dream Machine. Let's go ahead and put it in the official Dream Machine folder and push create. And this shouldn't take too long. Now, I kind of talked about, not really worrying about graphics, and I'll get into this a little bit more in a little bit, but I tend to use a lot of the Cinti assets from the asset store. I own probably 95% of them. They're amazing, and what it really does, though, it gives you flexibility. You can pretty much make almost any project nowadays using those assets, and since they are all made by the same studio, they all look the same and work well together. So I really do enjoy their stuff. Let's see if I can maybe pull it up and show you guys real quick while we're waiting. I know a lot of people, they like, oh, you can't use the asset store, but I disagree. I think 100% that's what it's there for. I think anything you can find that's already done is just going to save you time in the long run. If you have to create every single thing from scratch, especially as a student, you're going to just have a lot of issues. And I recommend limiting as many issues as possible. And like I said, if you're just creating a prototype that you're gonna sell off or look for a publisher, then I don't think it's that big a deal. Once you have a backing of a publisher and you have a full studio on your hands, graphics design studio, art studio, then you can start getting into those custom graphics. Alright, so jumping in here, we have the sample scene and all that stuff. I'm not going to really worry about that too much yet, especially since we're going to be doing this through GitHub. So what I'd like to do right off the bat is go ahead and just let's move this over here. I'm gonna go ahead and create this branch and get this stuff going so we can back this up. This will be our initial commit. I don't spend too much time with the descriptions and naming conventions. This is just something that it's mostly for me, so as long as I know what it is, that's fine. Let's see, we do have about 23,000 files here. And that Gitignore, we may need to move that up. But I do want this particular file, this artifact DB. I ignore this, so I'm going to add this to the Gitignore. And let's try it. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to go ahead and click commit to main. And like I said, there's so many ways to do this, guys. So try not to get too upset with me if I'm doing it differently than you've been taught. And if you've been taught something better, keep doing it. You know, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I've been doing it this way for so long. It's just you know, even if it's the wrong way, it's just what I've been used to doing. All right, so that looks like it's committing just fine. Sometimes we get that error with file size, and that's one of the reasons why I added that artifact file to the Gitignore. That artifact file is very, very large and usually kicks back an error almost every time. We can take a look at that Gitignore real quick, the actual GitHub folder. So I'm going to pull that up real fast. Take a look at that. I'm also going to delete that other folder we made when we were troubleshooting our ridiculous concept. Now, you can see we have our Dream Machine folder here. The Gitignore is here. It's in the root folder, and the Git is here. So that should be fine. And we did get a bunch of errors. You can see here. So let's troubleshoot that a little bit here. You can see this is one of the other projects I worked on here. This is the way I like to have it, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to exit out of Unity for now. And so we're going to take everything that's in part of this folder, and we're going to move it up into this root folder here. And I'm going to delete that here. With Gitignore, I don't know how many of you guys have worked with this. I tend to just look at it with Notepad++. It's kind of an easier way to use it. And you can go through and fine tune it. These are all the suggestions that that GitHub desktop automatically just threw in here for me. And you can see this very last line here was that artifact file that I added here. So everything does look good here. And then now we're going to go back into Unity Hub. One second here. I'm going to go ahead and just remove this from the list. And I'm going to add it back in. And then we're going to go into And then what I did here is I did a test. I just committed the Gitignore only itself. Made sure it was in, and I went ahead and pushed it to the branch. So now with that Gitignore in pushed, you can see we're down to only 295 files here. It makes it a little bit easier. You don't need all the metadata really, these dot metas. You really don't need these. Sometimes they just take up space. Unity will generate these on their own. So if I bring in this construction light material here, even if we don't have this meta file in here, Unity is going to create that on its own. So you don't necessarily have to have this backed up in your GitHub. Alright, this is taking a good amount of time. Alright, so here's what we got going on. I'm going to immediately go into the package manager. I'm going to start installing some of these packages that we talked about. And just to start off, I usually right away go down here and go to Unity registry. This is pretty much, actually never mind, I'm going to go to my assets. This is everything that I own, which is quite a bit. Like I said, I'm definitely a fan of the Unity Asset Store. Alright, so I'm going to install something called Playmaker. If you haven't heard of Playmaker, you need to look into it. Come on. There's always this delay when you type up here because there's just so much stuff. If you haven't heard of Playmaker, I would definitely look into it. Let's go ahead and update that first. Playmaker is visual scripting. I know Unity now has Bolt, which is their preferred version. It comes free standard with Unity. But I've been using Playmaker for so long, and I absolutely love it. And I'll show you guys how to use it and how easy it is to do stuff. And I even show you some secrets. And with that, Playmaker to me is just the best. If you prefer using Bolt, I mean, keep using Bolt. I don't know how much more stuff Bolt can do compared to Playmaker or vice versa, but everything I've ever needed to do, I could do with Playmaker. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. I'm going to go install Playmaker. We just started, and obviously we're already doing some version control, so I'm not worried about that. I go ahead and say I made backup. Alright, so I click import here. It's usually pretty quick, and for the record, Playmaker on the Unity Asset Store I think is around $60. Probably one of the best investments I've ever done. I'm telling you. I've reached out to Playmaker and seen if I can get you guys a discount. Unfortunately, they never got back to me. But if you can afford that $60, definitely do it. If you prefer to stay with Bolt. And as we progress through this project, I'd love to hear, hey, Bolt does this better, or Bolt can't do this. I think that would be really good to know. I'm going to disable the show on startup. I don't need to do this stuff anymore. And now Playmaker is successfully installed. Now, another thing that I like to do is I import a custom package. I'm going to move this out of the way for now. But you can just Google what's it called? The official name, I think, is it's like a store ecosystem for Playmaker, and it's really cool because you can go and look. It's like a community-based store. Everything's free, but it's community-based, and people create all these custom scripts for Playmaker. And so if you don't have one built in, and I'll show you these actions later, if you don't have these built-in actions, you can just go into the ecosystem and you can just do a search, find it, and install it. So for now, you can just Google the Playmaker ecosystem, and it's going to download a package. And I already have that ecosystem Unity package downloaded from a previous project. So I'm going to go ahead and click open here and import. This usually doesn't take too long. Alright, and it's done. So now if you can see, we have this up here called Playmaker. You can see we have under add-ons, we have the ecosystem and the ecosystem browser. So I'll get into that again later. We may never actually need it. I usually just go ahead and install it because it's pretty quick and you never know. But I'm going to show you another secret too on how to just create these custom Playmaker scripts using a couple of other concepts. We don't have any errors on our console, which is good. Anything that won't clear out, so I think we're good to progress here. Another one that I really like to use is called Autosaver. This one right here, I downloaded another one a long time ago, but this one I like better. And it's just a really simple concept where every single time you push play in the editor up here, it's gonna save your project. And so if you're like me and you don't save all the time, and you don't want to lose work, this really comes in handy. And you can see it really fast, really easy to download. So we got that installed too. So now I think would be a good time to start getting into some of those Cinti assets that we talked about. Now, if you remember right from the website for Dream Machine, you can see a lot of the custom artwork was kind of highlighting some of these packages that we're going to install. So one of the ones, I'm just going to type in poly here. A lot of times you'll see the low poly is the concept, but polygon is the official Cinti title. So I'm going to type in polygon. And I don't know, Luchador, thanks for watching. I saw your message here. Man, there's so many challenges with creating a prototype. It really just depends. But just got to follow. Thank you, Christy. I would say probably just doing what I'm doing now. Just get going. I mean, it's so easy to come up with the idea, at least for me. And so I have tons and tons of design documents, just kind of showing them my ideas. But to actually get going and start working on this project is sometimes the hardest thing. Once you get going, yeah, you'll run into what I call brick walls or obstacles, especially with a lot of the programming and coding. But it's actually much easier than you would think, and I think, like I said, anybody can do it. There's so many tutorials out there, so many things that you can do nowadays that gets you over those obstacles. You can do it, and you can just plug away. It's not as hard as it looks. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, feel free to ask some more. Now, let's look at this Apocalypse one, Polygon Apocalypse, one of my favorite packs. I'm going to go ahead and install this one. This is actually a pretty big pack. Might take a little bit longer. I have most of these already pre-downloaded, so that does help because I use these so often. And this would be kind of the scene I mentioned just quickly, where the main character, you know, leaves from the bunker and gets out into the what he thinks is the zombie apocalypse. And so this asset pack, I think, would be just perfect for that. There is some pretty cool videos on the asset store from the Cinti Studios asset store. They have some pretty cool videos highlighting this pack. I definitely recommend watching them. So I'm gonna go ahead, import that, and we have maybe 10 or 11, possibly 12 more of these packs to install. So this part of the the series is gonna be fairly boring. Like I said, part of being a developer is dealing with the busy, boring work. I can't even tell you how many times I've had to just change, little tiny things on like 1,000 assets, and you're just plugging away. I really hope we don't have to do that sometime in this series, but I apologize ahead of time if we do. Also, you can see our GitHub. I was able to push that Gitignore pretty easily. It's just that one file, so it's pretty quick. Now that I'm installing all of these new assets, we're going to get up there in changed files. So at some point, maybe once we've finished doing all the assets, I'm going to go ahead and do another push. Some people also ask, like, do you create different branches? Yeah, sometimes. If I'm kind of confused which way I'm going to go, I might create a separate branch, go down that road for a little while, and then decide if that's really the way I want to go. And if I don't like it, then I'll go back to my, before I created that branch and essentially delete it. I talked about Plastic for Unity earlier. Plastic, that's what Plastic's really good at doing, is they have like multiple branches. Pretty much anytime you do any extra work, it's considered a new branch. Alright, so we finished that one. I'm going to go ahead and do this Battle Royale one as well. It's a little bit smaller. Once again, by Cinti Studios. Most of these will be now from Cinti Studios. I also recommend following them on Facebook because they have new content just coming out all the time. They have definitely taken my money on almost a weekly basis. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't have the money to put into these types of assets, there is a lot of free stuff too that you can find out there. And like I said, don't even really worry about graphics in the beginning. Just get some of the core concepts down. Get going. Start seeing your idea come to fruition, and it's gonna feel good. Here's a pretty cool one. I don't know if I'll actually use this. Boss zombies. They're these huge, very unique zombies. That is something maybe we could include in this project, but at this point I'm not exactly sure if we'll need them. I don't want to put too much emphasis on the zombie part of this game because I really just wanted to throw that idea in there to essentially distract the player, like, oh, it's a zombie apocalypse, okay, that makes sense, when in reality it's not. Here's another pack from from Cinti, the Ancient Empire. I haven't actually made a project with this. I really wanted to, so I'm gonna look forward to working with this one. It's really cool. Let me see if I can pull up their video real quick. It's a fairly new project, or a fairly new asset pack. I don't think it's been out for too long. It's $150, but man, it's pretty impressive here. Give me a little bit of volume. And another cool thing is they create these scenes for you. Now, obviously, you could technically create a project just using their scene, especially if you just want to have maybe a cut scene going through this market or through the alleyway. You could technically do that. There are people like me who might notice that that's what you did, but I might laugh at you, but I wouldn't call you lazy by any means, because there's just so many other things that you need to do. But looking at this pack, man, it's just so impressive. I really love their stuff. And for those of you who don't really do like game dev, each one of these, like this basket here is its own asset. These boxes are its own asset. These statues. So I can move every single one of them around, adjust them size-wise, material-wise. So there's a lot of detail that they put into this project. And so if you looked at the Dream Machine original concept art, this is what I was proposing to be level 1. It's kind of like I was thinking, like almost a history lesson for the son, the main character. And so I thought we could start off in medieval times, but I really just wanted to use this asset package. So I was like, you know what? Let's start with this. All right, that's enough of that. So now we have that downloaded. I'm gonna go ahead and import it here. Hopefully the volumes are good on everything. I'm not sure how that Cinti video came through. By all means, if it's not coming in good, just go ahead and post that in the chat. A lot of people also ask me why Unity. Why do I use Unity? I've been using Unity, man, for probably 7+ years now. And so obviously, familiarity is a big part. But I also feel like it's very user-friendly. There's so many tutorials out there. I just think overall it's just a really great product. So I recommend Unity by all means. Unreal is pretty awesome too. I've dabbled with it. I think there was a little bit larger of a learning curve. So I kind of was like, you know what, never mind, I'm going to go back to Unity. I didn't want to waste too much time. I would say there is a lot of companies out there that are Unreal based. So I've actually lost out on quite a bit of work when they found out that I used Unity. I know that's kind of unfair to say, but some of the bigger projects I was working on, they really wanted to work with Unreal. But there's a lot of games out there. Some of my most favorite games were made with Unity, so I definitely would recommend them as well. Alright, so we got Ancient Empire is good to go. I'm not going to use this adventure one. I'm not going to use city characters or city stuff for now. Might as well do this zombies. It does come with some zombies in this apocalyptic pack, but they're very generic. They kind of look like they're burnt. So this zombies pack, gives you quite a few more options. So I'm going to go ahead and install install that. And also go back on the Unity versus Unreal concept. They're like two heavyweight boxers. I mean, they're constantly going at it. Unreal releases new stuff, Unity releases new stuff, and it's just going back and forth, and I really, really like that. Let's see. I don't think I need any of these. No, I am doing this farm. One of the things that I really wanted to do was every level needs to be like really different than the other one for the Dream Machine. The boy is essentially going through history, so I want him to progress, and I want you to be surprised as a player what's going to happen or what's coming. And every level is almost like a new game, which isn't really done in a lot of new video games. So I really wanted to highlight that. That's what I enjoy doing when it comes to making video games. Is I want to do stuff that people aren't really doing out there. And that's what's great about indie development is I have the luxury and the flexibility to really dive into projects that are different, that are not the normal. And so this Dream Machine idea is one of my ideas of taking almost like multiple game concepts and putting them all together into one game. I really do like this gang warfare asset pack, but I don't think I'm going to use it this time. Same with this heist one. I don't think we'll need any horses here. Now we are going to use this Polygon Kids because our main character is a kid. And what I really, I know it may sound crazy, but what I really like about this asset pack is Cinti designed a lot of these kids based off of their other packs. So there's like a medieval version of the kid. There's like medieval, I think there was even medieval zombie kids. Everything's flexible at this point, and I love that. When you work with some of the bigger companies, it's not flexible, and you don't have too much input. But I really like having that concept, and I really like involving the fans. To answer Christy's question, when it comes to creating a video game, it's usually one or the other. They don't work together, and so what Unity truly is. For those who don't know too much about game dev, is Unity is the tool that we use to create the entire game from start to finish. And once we're done, we can launch it on any platform we want, essentially. You could create a game on Xbox using Unity. You could create games on the phone. I've even created games on VR using Unity. But this particular project, we're going to be focused on PC, and we're going to publish or push it to Steam, which is PC based as well. So I think we were able to import the Polygon Kids, I want to say. If you do end up pushing this more than once, it's not that big a deal. You'll see that it'll just show you you already had everything imported. And just looking down here, I can see there's already a folder called Polygon Kids. So I'll let it go through. A lot of times clicking these cancel buttons don't work too well.